Hello. This video is meant to serve as an introduction to doing faculty evaluations with the SAIL system. To begin then, SAIL stands for Student Assessment of Instruction and Learning, and its goal is to simply modernize the faculty evaluation technique used here at Cal Poly. Why would we want to move to the SAIL system? Well, as you know, evaluating faculty involves getting feedback from thousands of students each term. And with the current evaluation system, which uses paper, many staff hours are spent both preparing and processing the evaluation forms in preparation for the evaluation cycle and once the evaluation cycle ends. Even for a small department, preparing and running this evaluation can easily cost $3,000 a year. And as we know now, with the proliferation of websites, databases, browsers, and the ease of getting online, feedback like this is simply best done online. And one of the goals also of SAIL is to provide better instructional feedback tools for the faculty. We feel like if we give the faculty the best possible feedback on their teaching performance, they can use this feedback to improve their teaching and also give them an easy way of consistently and constantly updating their professional portfolios. And of course, one of the obvious goals of moving the evaluation system online is to reduce paper usage. One-time expensive Scantron forms can be eliminated, as can the question sheets themselves. And never mind the idea of storing and archiving the evaluations once they're done. So what you'll see in the remainder of this video is both the student and the faculty view when the SAIL system is in use. To begin with, to make everything as simple as possible, SAIL is accessed by anyone using one common URL. So in other words, both students and faculty are directed to one URL, which is sail.calpoly.edu. We're able to simplify this online procedure for a given term by simply tapping into the campus enrollment database. How does this help us? Well, for a given term, getting into the campus database tells us what classes are being offered. Once we know what classes are being offered, we can also tell what instructors are teaching those classes. And of course, once we have the classes and the instructors, we also have the students that are taking those classes. So we have an immediate link up between all the students in a class, the instructor teaching the class, and the class themselves. Validation for SAIL will be done through the Cal Poly portal. So once the person has logged on to the portal and indicated they'd like to move over to the SAIL system, we'll immediately know if they're an instructor or a student. If the person is an instructor, they'll be given a list of classes for which they're evaluated, and if the timing's right, they can get in and see the evaluation results. If they're a student, the student will be shown all of the classes that they're taking in a given term. And once that list of classes is given, the student can choose a class and start the evaluation process for that given class. So in the next few slides, we'll look at what the student sees as they use the SAIL system. Because the first thing that they'll be asked to do is to validate themselves using the common Cal Poly portal. After the validation process through the portal is done, the SAIL system can determine if the person accessing the system is either a student or an instructor. In the case of the student, as we have here with the username JoeStudent, the SAIL system has determined that they are indeed a student enrolled in two particular classes this term, Physics 131.01 and Physics 133.02. This is generally how the student screen for the SAIL system will work. It'll welcome the student to the system and give them an entire list of classes that they are taking for a given term. The next step the student has to do is simply to click on one of the links for one of the classes they're taking. They can initiate the evaluation process for the class. So what we'll do here is sort of take you through the evaluation of Physics 133.01. The instructor is T. Bensky, and the description of the class is a lower division 120, 130, or 141 physics lecture. The student can make a bit of correspondence in their mind if they recognize the instructor and or the class they're taking, so they know they're evaluating in the right place. So as they go then to proceed and click on the link here, they immediately start with the very first question in the survey process. We give them a bit of instructions telling them that this evaluation is for the lecture portion of the class, that some classes have a lab course as this one does, and there's a separate evaluation for that. These instructions will only appear on question number 1. So the next thing that happens is probably something you might expect. The student is simply asked a series of questions that have been given to the SAIL system by the committee forming the evaluation process for a given department, for a given class, and the student can simply proceed with the process here. The first one asks if the instructor communicated course objectives clearly. The student has a range of options right here, ranging from always to never, and they can simply pick one and then move on to the next question. The instructor communicated his or her expectations of the students clearly, usually. The instructor was respectful towards students, always. The instructor was well prepared for class, never. And thus it proceeds if they are enthusiastic, clearly explain difficult materials and concepts, and on it goes. The SAIL system also typically includes a free response section where the students can type in some of their own comments, like "This has been a wonderful class." These will be readable directly by the faculty in the reporting section. So if we click next on that, when the evaluation finishes, you can see you are thanked for your input and told very explicitly you are done evaluating for this course. The only choice you have next is to return to the evaluation system there, in which case you're back to your menu of classes. If you click on that same class again, you'll see you've exhausted the possible questions and there's simply nothing else you can do for that particular class. You can go on to a different class now or log out of the system. I'll log out of the system for now, and that completes what the students will see on the SAIL version of faculty evaluations. As an instructor, you can log on the SAIL system whenever you want. However, the options the SAIL system will present to you will vary depending on when you log into the SAIL system. For instance, we promise the students when using SAIL that instructors cannot see the results until after the grades have been submitted. So at an administrative level, SAIL will be told when instructors for a given term can access their results. So as you can see here, I've logged on to my faculty account and it looks like I'm teaching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes. But none of these links are active right now, and that's because either the evaluation period is ongoing or hasn't even begun yet. In either case, there's some dates here which tell me when the evaluation results will be available to me, and they're not right now. So there isn't very much I can click on in terms of these courses right here. However, if you look downstream just a bit on the same row here, you can see some very valuable information. In particular, SAIL will always tell you real time the percentage of completed questions that students have submitted. So in this case here, the evaluation for Physics 133 is ongoing, but it looks like only 8.3% of the students have completed their evaluations. I can use this information to remind students in class to complete the evaluation or send them an email or whatever mode I'm going to use to communicate with students that the SAIL evaluation is on. I can definitely get some motivation from this percentage right here. Of course, we'd like to get the percentage as close to 100% as possible. The other thing that could be useful to you from the SAIL system is this link here that says Preferences, and there's one next to every course listed here. If you click on the Preferences then for a given course, you can see administratively when the SAIL evaluation dates have been opened. You don't have any control over these dates. These were set by your department chair or some other policy that your department may have. So in this case here, it looks like the students will be open. Students will be allowed to access SAIL and do an evaluation from October 12th to October 31st. These are just hypothetical dates. If you're not comfortable with these dates for whatever reason, you can put your own evaluation dates in for a given course using this form that you see here. You can put in the opening date, opening time, and closing date and closing time, and you can pick any times you wish as long as they are within this range set administratively by your department. Now you want to be a bit careful with these times and not make the time period too small for the students to make the evaluation, because you might start affecting the overall results you get. We think you should give students something on the order of about 2 weeks with ample reminders on your part to come to the SAIL system to do the evaluation. Also, when you log into SAIL, we start using this quarter after quarter, is that as classes are being evaluated, you'll see a complete list of all the classes you've been evaluated for, just going down the screen here one by one. And of course, the results of those classes for past terms where the grades have long been submitted will always be available to you for reasons for completing your professional action file, or you just want to go browse how your evaluation results are doing. So this is generally what you'll see as an instructor when you log into SAIL before you're allowed to actually see the evaluation results. As mentioned in the last segment, an instructor can log on the SAIL system whenever he or she wants. There is a critical date for each term, and that date is, of course, when the instructor can see the evaluation results. Now, the SAIL system promises the students that the instructor cannot see the evaluation results until after the grades have been submitted. And so there is this administratively set date on each term before which the instructor cannot see evaluation results and after which they can. In this particular login screen here, I've logged in as T. Bensky, and this is after the grades for the course have been submitted. So what I notice here is that the course titles now are no longer just black text, but they are clickable links. So next to this class here, I see that overall I got an 8.3% completion rate. Now, for the purpose of this video, this is just hypothetical test data, but of course we'd like that percentage to be as close to 100% as we can. But as you saw in the last video segment here, you can always get the percentage even before the evaluation results are available, so you can continually prod your students via email or verbals in the classroom to go do the evaluation. But in either case here, this click is active. Let me click on it. So what I see when I click on the link then is I see all the questions represented here, and the SAIL program has gone and summarized the results for me in numerical, graphical, and even an average form in there. So let's just talk about what you're getting here. So under the question, for instance, the instructor communicated his course objectives clearly. You can see one student answered always, 2 students answered usually, 2 students answered sometimes, and no one answered rarely or never. And you can see the corresponding histogram here that corresponds to those numbers. And generally, the SAIL questions are programmed so that the earlier questions, the early answers in a given set are more positive than the later ones. So for instance, always is the first answer here, and that's definitely more positive than usually, sometimes, and of course, rarely, never are the most negative answers. So because of that structure, and because we're most familiar with the GPA scale going from 0 to 4, the positive answers, the most positive one is given a GPA rating of 4.0, and the most negative ones are giving something low like 0.8, but there's sort of an equal gap between the GPAs here for a given answer. And so from these numbers, the SAIL system is able to calculate an average GPA you would obtain for a given question. So for instance, the average of a 4.0 and answered 1 time, plus a 3.22 times and a 2.42 times, gives me an average overall question of a 3.0 on this particular question here. So see, this is where we hope the SAIL system becomes valuable to a faculty member for improving their teaching, because you can see the individual results the students gave in sort of textual form, a graphical form. You can sort of hover over the bar to see what an individual result would be, and an overall GPA here for each question. So you can get a snapshot of how the students thought you did in communicating course objectives clearly. And you can see this is done for all the questions. Here's about the expectations. Here's the question about being respectful, and so on and so forth. It goes all the way down, and for every one of the questions here, again, you get the numerical breakdown, a histogram graph, and an overall GPA average for that question. And if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom of all the questions SAIL presents here, you can see the free response answers in there as well. So someone told me it was a wonderful class, that I'm the best professor, that my tests are way too hard, and etc. And lastly, the last numerical thing that SAIL gives you is the overall numerical GPA for all of the questions. So this 2.5 is the average of all the individual GPAs of all the questions. So if I wanted to get an overall snapshot of how I rated for Physics 133.01 in this term here, well, it looks like I rated 2.5, and I can use that to then ponder my future teaching plans. There's one other link which is important up here. It's called the view link right here, and there's an all and a tagged option you can see right next to each other here. The all is sort of the default, and that just shows you the results for all the questions. However, at least in the physics department and likely other departments, there's just certain questions that are required of you as far as your professional promotion process goes at Cal Poly here. And these are the tagged questions here. So in the physics department, the tagged questions are the 3 that you'll recognize from the green sheets that we used to use. Here's the one about the ability of the instructor to present course material. Here's the one about the ability of the instructor to recognize and clarify student difficulties. And here's the one about the overall rating of the instructor. These 3 here are the ones the SAIL system will present to you if you clicked on the tag link right here. And of course, you see the same information. You see the numerical results here. You see the bar graph histogram right here. And you see the overall average right here. And of course, at the very bottom, the SAIL system will compute the overall average for even this subset of the SAIL questions here. So remember also that the goal of SAIL at this point isn't to replace any of the administrative processes of what you do with the evaluation results. So for instance, in the physics department here, these are the only 3 questions that generally are included in your working personnel action file, and that isn't changing at this point. Maybe someday it will, but at this point, that's not something that we're pursuing. And so you'd expect then that this 2.6, for instance, I believe in the college working personnel action file document that 2.6 is the number that you would record for your evaluation for this course, for this quarter, as delivered by SAIL. So I hope to convince you by discussing this here that this isn't any sort of procedural change at all. You're just getting the information back in a slightly different way. Also, I believe at this level here that the chair of your department will have this information available as they need after the evaluation date has passed as well. So in other words, the chair of the department can read these results just as they've always read the results returned by the Scantrons. So in summary then, this is what SAIL looks like after you log on. After you log on to SAIL, after the grades have been submitted for a particular class. And what we're hoping that if SAIL goes into general use here, that this window here will grow and grow and grow. And there'll just be a long list of your entire teaching record here on the SAIL system, archived and backed up in electronic format. So you can just click on these classes here and view the evaluation results whenever you wish.